Honestly, I'm excited for Valhalla. I wasn't all that excited for Odyssey. I've heard Odyssey is an excellent game, and I have no doubt that it is an excellent game. I might revisit it. I might play it a little bit beforehand. But from what I've gathered from just people around the community, friends that I have IRL, um, you know, the past couple games have been a little bit eh. And by that I mean we're not really talking about what made Assassin's Creed. Story wise, apparently they have been rather sporadic and kind of not really having to do with the Assassins and Templar War, which to me, with the backdrop of history behind it, it was kind of the selling point. And I think that's why I fell off. I did enjoy Origins. I liked Origins. But once again, the modern day plot and how it all ties together is still very convoluted. And I feel like their biggest mistake, and they've been trying so hard for so long to fix, was, and spoiler alert, the end of Assassin's Creed 3, when Desmond, our main protagonist for the past 5 games beforehand, had been so prevalent, like just right there front and center. All of a sudden he's dead, and then they're just kind of like, hey, here you go. This really has nothing to do with the overarching story. Now, I know there's bits and pieces littered throughout the games where, there is pieces that are kind of part of the story, but in all honesty, I'm always left feeling a little like scratching my head like, really? Was that it? So we'll watch this trailer, guys. We'll hang out, and I'm gonna chat with the dudes immediately following this about their thoughts on the trailer, their thoughts on Valhalla, and if this will be the game that really brings Assassin's Creed back to the fold. So without further ado, boys, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
They are heartless.
Oh shoot, wait, am I supposed to watch this as well?
You can.
The echoes.
Godless barbarians.
Ooh, I better turn this down. I don't want to get DCMA'd. I mean, I've seen this already. I just don't want to get copyright strike, because this will probably make its way to YouTube.
Yeah.
They scar the lands of England. Lands they will never defend. Never love. The time has come.
So, from what I've gathered, this is Alfred the Great.
This king here?
Mm-hmm. This is Alfred the Great. This is, and I'm calling upon history knowledge here. This is the Battle of the Danes, like the March of the Danes, like the Vikings versus Anglo-Saxons in England. So this is about, I would say this is about 1100 AD, time period wise. This is like the very dawn of the Dark Ages. It was quite literally a time of, it was a clash of belief systems, honestly. I mean, you had the Norse that praised many gods versus, the English that wanted, to reign supreme. Now, during this time period, the kingdoms of England were broken up. Basically, lords ruled different areas of England and Europe. And so there was really no one true king. It was a time of war and blood. So I can assume here that the Saxons are more than likely the Templars.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously. I mean, this is like very shortly after the Crusades era. So it's still kind of at the beginning of the assassin legacy, that we know from Altair and Ezio. Like, it's only a couple hundred years apart, you know?
Which means that the assassins are fully established by this point.
Yes, they
most
are.
likely.
They are. This technically takes place after the very first game. So
Okay.
Altair at this point is either
Honestly?
dead or old.
Okay.
I believe,
we
if
do-
my timeline's correct.
We actually do know through other media forms what became of Altair.
Yes, we do. We do. Revelations showed. The end of Revelations shows how Altair died. He basically, once again, spoiler alert for those that don't care, please, or for those that do care, please mute now. Altair basically, so Altair, upon realizing that Masyaf was about to be overran by the Mongols, sent his son and the rest of the assassin order away, scattered across, Europe, scattered across the Middle West, or wherever they went, which we can kind of assume is how the assassin order kind of spread out. He sent his entire order away, and he created a vault. Now, this vault needed, I think it was like 12 different keys in order to open. So he locked himself inside the vault with his apple of Eden, which is one of the artifacts from the first civilization. Now, years later, Ezio came across the Masyaf keys while in Istanbul, and he had to collect them. Then this was in his later years, and that's when we find out, he basically follows in the steps of Altair's final days and goes from there. So we know that Altair might very well be dead at this point. Hey, what's up, John? Just woke up, saw streaming, can never seem to be awake to make yours. Hey, man, that's cool. Welcome, dude. Welcome. So just kind of discussing like so trying to figure out where Assassin's Creed Valhalla kind of fits on the Assassin's Creed timeline. If this is close enough, it's very possible that Valhalla might have something not to do, but it might be linked to the first game in a way.
With you pointing out, and I hadn't picked up on this the first time I watched the trailer, that this is after the Crusades and the events of the first games.
What I believe. I'm not. You can't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure.
But if that's true, just assuming for the sake of argument that that's true, this could be a step in the right direction from a story standpoint, because one of the reasons, at least for me, that it seemed like the games that we've played recently didn't really feel like Assassin's Creed games was because the assassins weren't really around back ancient, because Origins shows the basic origins of the assassins, and then they didn't, by the time ancient Greece rolls around, they haven't picked up the name assassins yet, and this might be a chance to get back on, okay, they're formed, they have a name, where do we go from here?
Shit, whoops.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Altair, as far as I know from my lore, my Assassin's Creed lore knowledge, which is kind of limited, I'm not gonna lie. Altair, well, the order of assassins that Altair belonged to was one of the first truly organized units of assassins. And that they had this ongoing war with the Templars, and it was just this time of turmoil amidst other things. So I'm very just kind of wondering, how is this going to connect to the overall story that we know from the modern day, which essentially has been, from a modern day perspective for the past couple games, it's essentially just been Tomb Raider. we're going to go somewhere. We need to use the Animus to go back in time and see through the eyes of some random assassin that may have just come in contact with one of the pieces of Eden. Like, we had in Syndicate with Jacob and Evie Fry. They had got their hands on the cloak. They came in contact with one of the with the Cloak of Eden, which I believe allowed them to splice DNA. And then there started like this whole plot of like questioning, are they going, like, is Abstergo going to try to bring Desmond back to life? Like, what's all that about? And then they kind of just dropped it. Like they just kind of dropped it. And that's what kind of disappointed me, because after Syndicate, if you remember, that's when they made the giant shift into RPG territory with Origins. They kind of soft rebooted the series with it. So the real question is, how does it all connect back? Because I know there are characters from the original 3 games, the people that helped Sean and all them, the people that helped Desmond get to where he needed to go, the scientists and the Animus builder. They helped the protagonist of, I believe it was either Syndicate or Origins, one of the 2 games. But, I know that they were involved. So they're still around and they're still actively trying to find something. Where could this possibly go is what I'm trying to get at. Like, I'm not saying the series needs to end, but there needs to be something substantial in it. Otherwise, this is just a game about Vikings. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Otherwise, this is just a game about Vikings. And I mean, I'm excited for it. It looks really cool, but without a lot of what makes Assassin's Creed, I feel like the past couple games have kind of lost their way.